for our Lord to watch over her, our children, and our grandchildren. May peace be with you and the family, and to everyone here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. That was very nice. I'd now like to introduce Frank Mikulski. He's a retired Hillsdale Chief of Police, and he served in the police department 42 and a half years. I apologize. He should have been 2 spaces ago, because as you can see, everybody is in the date order of the events transpiring.
At 6:58 p.m. on April the 19th, 1973, and Sergeant Dave Benoit takes a phone call that a 7-year-old girl hasn't returned home from selling Girl Scout cookies from about 2:45 that afternoon. The first reaction is we send patrol to the area and assume that, she met up with a friend and went to the home. Children lose all track of time. So that's your assumption, and you hope you're right. Then dust starts to fall, and your assumption turns to concern, and now you hope you're wrong. We call out the fire department for lighting, for neighborhood searches. And time goes on, now dawn arrives, and now our hope and concern have turned to fear. Captain Bob Schramm's in charge at the department. Chief Orisco at the time is in Florida. He takes the first flight home, and he takes control of a massive search of the entire area. 15 police departments and fire departments from as far as Rockland County respond. The New Jersey and New York State Police with helicopters, bloodhounds, the county sheriff's department and county police department, the FBI, our personal friends in the FBI, Charlie Davis and Richard Kaya, all respond. I'm a sergeant at this time, and my personal involvement has to do with leading some of the search parties, which were already mentioned. This is a ground search. We're searching garages, tool sheds, creek beds, looking, but hoping not to find anything. We start with a handful of people. We have a police officer or a Hillsdale fireman in charge of each group. We're familiar with the terrain. And soon we have hundreds of people volunteering for this. People from all over, every walk of life, just stepping forward. It was very humbling and a very heartwarming experience for me at that time. Also, over that weekend, I served some time on a police desk, answering literally hundreds and hundreds of phone calls. Some cranks, some nasty, obscene stuff, but for the most part, literally hundreds of calls people called with minor, insignificant pieces of information that I think we all knew really weren't going to be that helpful. But the compassion pouring over the phone lines was incredible. 42 years on this department, this is the most devastating event I've ever been associated with. To hear these people say, I hope I can help, and is there anything else I can do, and what are you doing, and you think it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. It was incredible, the pouring out that took place. Well, in any case, the investigation continues with Chief Orisco and members of the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office, and the horrible day arrives. Joan is found. The arrest is made. A neighbor, a teacher, the epitome of betrayal. The monster is subsequently sentenced to prison. About 20 years go by and I become chief of police. Rosemary and I, we continue to converse from time to time, and she says, am I doing good? Is this the right thing? What do you think of this idea? What should I do next? I said, Ro, you're the squeaky wheel. You have to keep going. Just, I guess last week or the week before, she reminded me of that term, the squeaky wheel, and she told me that she thinks maybe that helped her keep going, and I was honored by that. Her efforts are incredible, as we all know. She's tireless. Legislation in New Jersey, legislation signed by President Clinton in '98, in '04 in New York State. Legislation pending yet as we speak, all because of Rosemary's efforts. You won't all be able to see this, but I have a photo here. This is a photo of myself, then Governor Whitman, and the current Chief of Police Stalter. But what's important, this hung in my office and it's in my home today. The people in this picture are not is not what's important. It was the day that it was taken that was important. This picture was taken in April of 1997 in front of the Bergen County Jail, the day we signed Jones Law.
I'd next like to introduce Mr. Richard Shoup. He was a classmate of Jones at St. John the Baptist School and also Jones' little boyfriend. Okay.
Good evening. I was a friend and classmate of Jones back at St. John's. 10 years ago, I was here in this park to mark the 30th anniversary of Jones' death. At the conclusion of the service, I took my family over to meet Mrs. D'Alessandro. Even though I had not seen her in so many years, she remembered me like it was yesterday. When she asked me to speak tonight, Mrs. D'Alessandro asked me to share some memories of Joan, as well as memories of the incident that took place 40 years ago. I remember Joan as being a great friend, a funny kid who was very friendly to everyone. She always had a big smile and a great sense of humor, and was very outgoing. As for my memories of the crime, I clearly remember the search parties going house to house through every yard. I remember going on a search party up by the reservoir, only to be brought back to the firehouse when they realized how young I was. I remember very clearly when my family sat me down to tell me what had happened to Joan after she had been found on Easter Sunday. I remember the whole town gathered outside the old police station when McGowan was arrested for Joan's brutal murder. I asked some of our classmates what they remembered about Joan, and here's what they wrote. Eddie Kovac remembered the following. Sure. Okay.
I apologize, we're just going to pause for a second while the train passes. This is the only train.
Not to mention some of the quotes from some of our other classmates. Eddie Kovac, as I recall, Joan sat across from me in Mrs. Keenan's second grade classroom with a desk shape in a U-shaped pattern with a central aisle for the teacher. My memory of Joan is that of a beautiful spirit with a warm and beaming, contagious smile. In my mind's eye, I can still see her quite clearly, sitting on the other side of the room, laughing in good humor, while teasing us boys in a routine boys versus girl one-up contest. I can't remember exactly what she said as to the detail, but one zinger that just cracked everyone up, boys and girls alike. That is my last memory of her. It occurred sometime during the week preceding Easter vacation that year. Linda Duffy remembers our first communion 2 weeks after Joan's death on May 5th, 1973. She was sad that every pew had a person's name on it, except for Joan's, who would have sat right next to Linda. And Christine Mullen recalls our first day back at school. Nobody sat down. We all just stood there, everyone afraid to sit in Joan's desk. Here's what we don't remember. We don't remember seeing Joan at all the birthday parties growing up after second grade. We don't remember seeing Joan at our confirmation. And although we don't remember seeing Joan at our 8th grade graduation, she will always be one of our alumni, St. John's class of '79. While Joan was not at these milestone events physically, she was in spirit, in our hearts and in our minds, just as she is here tonight. It is a painful memory for all of us. Joan was sorely missed as we progressed through the years. While her family surely bore the brunt of it, we all still feel the pain of her loss to some extent. Joan was then and remains a great friend to this day. Thank you for letting me share some memories of Joan tonight.
Volunteered countless continuous hours to the Joan Angela D'Alessandro Foundation.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. This means a lot to myself and my mother and brother that you're all here tonight. I just wanted to start out. I was born I was born in 1982, 9 years after my sister was murdered, so I never got to meet her. But you know, growing up, I learned about Joan's death. Like, it wasn't traumatic for me. It was like I had a little sister. I had a sister in heaven. You know, I was a little boy. My mom said I had a sister in heaven. You could pray to her. You know, we'd go to the cemetery. It was sort of, it was happy. You know, it was like a happy thing. It wasn't until it was, you know, it was gradual that I learned more about what happened really, and it wasn't until really '93 when my mother got the shocking call that he was eligible for parole. That was like that was when I really fully understood what happened with my sister, and that's like the point that changed our family, and launched the no parole effort. There was a green ribbon campaign. I remember it was sort of exciting to see the green ribbons in town when we were driving somewhere and say that person's supporting us, that person's supporting us, and these are all memories that I have. And of course, one of my biggest memories I was 11 years old when we had the first vigil in this same spot 20 years ago in 1993, and it was very vivid, the caravan that went by and all the lights, and you know, as an 11-year-old, it was like, whoa, you know, this is big, you know, and the people who spoke. You know, that was just the beginning of the journey for us. We had appeals, we had more parole hearings. The appeal court overturned it, and my mom had to testify again. The whole new ruling, you know, a whole new parole process was started over again in the mid-90s, and my mom had to go through victims' input statements, and she was having health problems at the time. She went, and it was that was a great struggle for our family, but my mom she turned the struggle around, and she went for the laws, as Mr. Mikulski said. The New York law in 2004, that was the one I was most involved in. And my mom, again, was her health she has myasthenia gravis, and at the time she couldn't attend a lot of the events, so I would go for her, and we went to me and my brother represented her at the law signing at the site where Joan was found in Harriman State Park, and with Governor Pataki. And so just in one more thought I'd like to add, I think it's wonderful that after 40 years there's still support for our family and that Joan is remembered. I think it's sort of encouraging. There's been some other tragedies that we've all heard about, dealt with, that the support of the community continues. The victims still, you know, are going through things years later, and it's great that people don't forget and that people are here for us and for Joan, and try to make something positive out of all this. And I'd just like to say, in my opinion, like, criminals try to devalue life and want us to forget the victims. And together we have said that life is valuable, caring is important, that it's important to ensure children have a safe and happy lives. I think Joan sort of represents this, and by remembering her, and we're going to have the garden near the Hillsdale train station, and I think that garden is going to represent child safety for and the legacy of this town and community that's come together to do something positive, and what my mom has spearheaded to make this to make something positive and to help other people. So thank you very much, and I'll see you all September 7th when hopefully the garden will be unveiled, and we're going to be having a party, a little family event at the Westwood Elks. That'll be in September, so I hope to see you there. Thank you.
First Jones Law in New Jersey.
Thank you very much. I remember back in the 70s, I was a Girl Scout leader, and I had heard about the tragedy in Hillsdale. I lived in Hasbrook Heights then as well with my 4 daughters. I was a Girl Scout leader, and it really hit everyone hard How can a child be murdered in such a